Mentioned it was a private fishing boat that pulled those two pilots that ejected out of the water. They actually left here from H&M Landing, and like you said, we were here at around 1:30 when that group returned. They got off the boat and they took a moment to describe to us what they saw and what they heard. It was actually a team of about a dozen people from a company called Trace Minerals. This was a team building trip today. Obviously, they came here hoping for fish, but they're now bonded by something much, much greater that they say could have been a lot worse. A routine private charter turned into a scary situation Wednesday morning when the typically uneventful cruise out of the San Diego Bay was interrupted by a military jet seeming to take off from Naval Air Station North Island.
Normal, sounded great. We're like, oh, it's pretty cool. And then we could hear it kind of screeching around, and one of our co-workers was up on deck and started calling us up.
2 orange parachutes ejected. And that's when I'm like, okay, something's happening. So quickly just started taking pictures.
These photos captured by Carol Gonzalez and the Trace Minerals team who chartered the boat for the morning, showing the harrowing moments the jet crashed into the water after they say it had been flying without any pilots in it.
I lost sight of the plane for a second, and the next thing you know, it's like coming down, straight down into the water. By the time I reacted to get a picture, it's just nothing but splash.
Hey, Roger, we had 2 aircraft men eject, and we're on our way to help assist. They're in the water.
It seemed like you were watching a Star Wars movie. It just comes crashing down straight into the water, massive explosion of water, sand, and just honestly, you had no idea what you just watched. You couldn't wrap your head around it.
The captain on the boat's first thought was, where are those pilots?
I saw one hit the water, and then the other one, we gotta go. So turned up the engines, turned the boat, headed straight for them.
Right now we see them. We're getting life-saving equipment ready, our ladder, and we're pulling up to them.
If they're, you know, hurt, whatever, we just know there's people in the water and we need to get them out.
The 2 pilots were pulled on board to safety by the crew and didn't seem to be hurt.
I was quite impressed with the way they handled the situation too. Everybody was calm and just handled it like, you know, it's like every day, you know, but it's not.
It was really cool. You could see them kind of hug each other after they got on board and making sure one another was safe and good. And I think probably a lot of shock and maybe a little trauma from it, but they were good and, you know, very professional about helping them out.
Hey, Roger, we have both pilots on board and safe.
Talk about timing. The captain says the crew of this boat just wrapped up a Coast Guard training on Monday. They, of course, were prepared for a situation like this, even though they thought it really would never come. The captain also says that moment that the jet went into the water, he guesses that it was no further than 1/8 of a mile away from their boat. Obviously, a miracle that no one here was injured. For now, from Point Loma, I'm Dana Williams, NBC 7. We are standing directly across the street from where Cheryl and Jeffrey Koo are when they looked up in this hillside and they saw an electrical tower that was going up in flames. It was Tuesday night, right as the Eaton Fire appeared to be starting, and they weren't the only ones in this neighborhood who captured the same thing.
Hey babe, I need you to come out here right now. We have a very big problem.
I've seen the fires spread so fast, and I knew that with how close that fire was to us, that we would literally have minutes to get out safely.
Cheryl and Jeffrey Koo have lived in Altadena for 20 years. She says she was on her way home from work on the 210 freeway when she looked in the distance and saw an orange glow. As she got closer, she knew it was time for them to pack up and to leave.
Oh no!
Minutes later at 6:25 p.m., the fire grew.
Oh my God.
Then 6:28 p.m., the power lines were completely engulfed in smoke and in flames.
A nightmare horror movie, you just don't ever want to see something like that, and it was so close. That tower is very close to our house.
By 6:41, Jeffrey tried to spray down his roof, but said the wind was so strong, he's not sure any of the water were even stuck. What it did instead was carry embers straight to their home.
You're not going to be able to control that, you know? So seeing that, I immediately went to this is very, very bad.
According to their video, by 6:53 Tuesday night, they were pulling away from their house under an orange sky facing what was the unthinkable.
We potentially could lose everything at this point.
Bye.
Jeffrey and Cheryl were able to get to safety along with their 2 dogs, and they say by a miracle, they returned Wednesday to see their home still standing. But of course, it doesn't fully make up for all that's been lost.
From my particular viewpoint, it seemed like that could have been the initial start of it.
One of their neighbors sent us additional photos in this video. It shows what appears to be the same tower and at the same time. We heard from a spokesperson for Southern California Edison who says the power lines to the immediate west of Eaton Canyon were de-energized well before the start of the fire. They also say they looked into 4 energized lines in the canyon area and did not find any anomalies in the 12 hours leading up to the fire's start. Still, they filed reports for the Eaton Fire and for the Hearst Fire to the California Public Utilities Commission to look into.
We're just devastated.
That's all of the information that Southern California Edison says they're able to share for now. Of course, this investigation could take months into the cause of the Eaton Fire as investigators continue to do their work. From Altadena, I'm Dana Williams, NBC 4 News. The Cardinal, now Pope, was sort of mentioned as a possibility a few times, but was really the dark horse heading into the conclave. But there was an extreme sense of pride here, not only that he's an American, but an Augustinian, and one who made a big impression on those here who we spoke with.
He dresses like Benedict and he speaks like Francis.
You can feel a presence on the campus of St. Augustine High School in North Park. Maybe it's because it's been here for 100 years, or maybe it's because it's been visited personally by the new Pope.
The fact that it's someone with such strong connections to St. Augustine High School is tremendous.
It was absolutely amazing.
I mean, I have met this guy. I've talked to this guy. He is awesome.
But I just screamed. I said, Prevost, Prevost, it's really him.
Father Max says he has a personal connection with Cardinal Robert Prevost, turned Pope Leo XIV. He was Father Max's director of formation during his seminary in Chicago.
I've had breakfast with the guy a lot. I've ate my Wheaties next to him. You know, it's like, now he's the Pope. He's very calm. He has a very nice demeanor about him. He's a great listener. He's very perceptive. He's a canon lawyer, so you can get down to nitty-gritty details. But he's also a White Sox fan. He likes to watch baseball.
Around 2012, Prevost visited the St. Augustine campus to celebrate their 90th year.
Came all the way from Rome to be with us, to give the homily.
He led a service for the several hundred students at the all-boys school.
I was, probably 15, 20 feet from him, and obviously at the time he was, he wasn't the Pope yet, but looking back at it, it's just something, I'll tell my future children about it.
A memory that now takes on an entirely new meaning as the world is also introduced to what it means to be part of the Augustinian order.
Well, we're about 2,000 priests and brothers in about 50 countries. If you know Villanova University in Philadelphia, that's us.
The 3 core values of unity, truth, and love, unitas, caritas, veritas, which I think the world can use all 3 of those right now in a big way.
Sentiments that suggest he'll follow in the steps made by the late Pope Francis in his effort to expand the church and welcome more people in it.
He'll grow into taking the name Leo. That Leo means lion, right? And lions don't always speak. They don't have to speak. They're just present sometimes, right?
That last bit sort of gives me chills, that symbolism there, and it's very clear, like you just heard, that the people here who feel like they know him say he is the right person for this job, especially at such a pivotal time globally. But for now, reporting live from North Park, I'm Dana Williams, NBC 7. Just imagine it's not even 4 a.m. You're asleep in your own bed, and then your worst nightmare. That's what Sir Jonna and Ben McCarty tell us happened. But if it weren't for their neighbors and their truck, they say this could have had a much different outcome.
Come on, let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
So we were all asleep. It was like 3:50 in the morning, and I heard the 2 crashes really loud. I shot right up. I was screaming to wake him up.
Hey, I don't think we're gonna get the girls over.
And then I went towards the living room, towards the noise, and the floor was just, it looked like covered in like debris, burning, orange glow everywhere, like someone had turned a light on. You could see the living room, but no lights were on.
Without a moment to lose.
Hey, we gotta be careful. This thing's still explosive.
The McCarty family ran into their backyard. That's when the quick thinking of neighbors and a ladder helped get them, including a 4- and a 2-year-old, and their 2 dogs to safety.
Hey, dude, get over me.
There we go. There we go.
Our neighbors are the ones that rescued us out of there.
At first, first, they thought a gas line had broke. It wasn't until the smoke settled they realized it was a jet that crashed, pushing Ben's truck right into their living room.
A lot of things had to happen for us to be safe. Like if that truck hadn't been there and the plane had hit our house instead, then it probably would have been a different story.
There's relief they're okay, relief their neighbors are okay, but it's all still just fresh.
The smallest sounds, like the fan in the bathroom, was really triggering for me because it sounded like right after the engine hit, so that's what that sounded like. And the water drops on the shower, like the floor, that sounded like the popping that was happening as explosions continued even after the crash had happened.
The McCartneys are already in another home within the same Santo Terrace community, with no word on when they might be able to try to salvage some of their belongings. But they say the most important things they already have.
Honestly, we grabbed what I would have grabbed: our kids and our dogs. That's really the only thing I would want to get out of the house. At the end of the day, like, we're out alive.
We spoke with the commanding officer of Naval Base San Diego, who oversees this area. He says up to 50 families took advantage of some of the vouchers last night for housing, or they stayed in Navy lodging. We asked him when he thinks these families will be able to return home. He says he's just not sure. But for now, reporting from San Diego for NBC4 News, I'm Dana Williams. Here in San Diego, there's a very strong response, in part because our county actually has one of the nation's largest concentrations of veterans. I'm speaking to you now from Coronado, this, of course, being the home of Navy SEAL training.
My dad had served in the military, my grandfather had served in the military, so I thought it was a good way to try something new.
You could say it wasn't something Al Kovac necessarily grew up wanting to do, but he's glad he did.
I love the people that I worked with. And we never talked about religion, we never talked about politics, we always were focused on the mission.
He joined the Navy in 1987, got on track to become one of the force's most elite members on SEAL Team 5. That's when he came to Coronado for the first time for training called BUDS.
There's an old saying in the SEAL teams, embrace the suck, and I was embracing a lot.
He found his purpose, his mission, until a routine training in 1991.
On May 21st, 1991, my platoon at Team 5 was preparing to deploy to the Philippines, and we needed to get a few more jumps in out of a C-130, and when I jumped out, I collided with another jumper, and by the time we were able to get untangled, it was too late for my backup parachute to function properly.
What he thought he'd do for a lifetime cut short in an instant.
I hit the ground, I broke my neck, which resulted in quadriplegia.
He soon found himself in the midst of 6 months of intense therapy at the VA.
And it was really that time I spent at the VA hospital with my fellow paralyzed veterans that I realized, you know, there is life after paralysis, and that maybe I can kind of reinvent myself. The nurses, the doctors have all become like my family.
It's why Al felt compelled to join this rally in Coronado. Veterans who are opposed to proposed cuts at the Department of Veterans Affairs. It is the largest healthcare system in the nation, with nearly 500,000 employees and 170 hospitals, including one here that Al depends on.
A lot of patients come into a hospital and they're gone in a day or two, but when it comes to spinal cord injury, that's a second home.
Overall, 80,000 people may lose their jobs, according to a memo from the cabinet-level department's chief of staff. Already, more than 2,000 people have been cut since January.
Our veterans deserve better.
And I feel like we've sacrificed enough, and maybe it's someone else's turn.
CEQA, or the California Environmental Quality Act, has been around since the 70s. It's really avoided any sort of major changes, that is, until now. One of those large shifts are going to be allowing the exemption of any sort of infill development. And what exactly does that mean? Well, essentially any sort of housing being built in a city is going to be free from those CEQA-related environmental hurdles.
It gave essentially anyone the ability to file a lawsuit to block a home or an apartment building in their neighborhood just because they didn't like it. There were no actual requirements that they prove environmental merit of the lawsuit.
If you ask Matthew Lewis, laws need to be analyzed and changed every few years. CEQA, he says, is certainly no exception.
The thing is that was 50 years ago. And it's not just that our conditions have changed and our technology has changed, but our communities have changed.
Lewis, the communications director for California YIMBY, or Yes in My Backyard, says since CEQA was written into law, the way it's used has changed. It started as a way to ensure all developers knew the possible impacts of a build, from how it could harm local species or cause noise pollution, but it came with an unintended consequence.
People figured out that the way the law was written gave anyone a legal right to action over anything that happened in their neighborhood.
CEQA-related lawsuits have played a part over the years in either stopping or slowing San Diego projects along their paths to redevelopment. You may know some of these, like the one standing Qualcomm Stadium in Mission Valley or the long-vacant California Theater downtown. But not everyone feels the CEQA law is a hurdle, rather a shield to protect people, places, and other living things. Raquel Mason with the California Environmental Justice Alliance says housing is really only the start of the conversation when it comes to all that's encompassed in the CEQA reform, making it even more unnerving. She says that it was all lumped in with the budget process.
We're confused with the messaging. We're confused with their kind of continuing to push this is like, this is about housing. This is about addressing housing affordability. It really isn't.
Beyond housing, and the reform could be applied to building utilities, high-speed rail facilities, broadband, and more, according to the governor's office. So what happens when those sorts of projects don't need to go through an environmental review? Well, that's the concern of those who feel that CEQA should have never been tampered with. But on the other side of it, people say they hope this really removes some of that red tape to help with California's housing affordability crisis. There's more to come with this, I'm sure of it. For now, I'm Dana Williams, NBC 7.